Oh, I wanted to comment earlier about the dungeons. I think that Breath of the Wild is sort of going to be like an extension of Skyward Sword in a way, because Skyward Sword, I believe, was Nintendo's sort of first step into trying to merge dungeons with the overworld.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I feel like with this, like this game sort of takes it to the extreme where like you don't really know when the dungeon begins and where it ends. And I think if we do go with that kind of gameplay, there isn't really the need for like many dungeons, because you have like puzzles and stuff happening all over the place. So, and I actually sort of like that approach, that seamless approach.
Yeah, we have seen that there's already mini bosses in the overworld, and we've seen that with Skyward Sword, to where the fight that you have with the what's his name?
Who?
The imprisoned.
Oh yeah, the imprisoned. Yeah.
Yeah, so like they have boss fights in the overworld in Skyward Sword, and in this game we see that there's mini boss fights with the rock
Yeah, the
monster.
Steptalis.
Right, and so it makes me think, how many other types of mini bosses are there? Like, obviously there's going to be puzzles and stuff that you have to solve in the overworld, so maybe while you're in the middle of solving a puzzle or something, you'll be confronted by one of these monsters, because the step type, whatever his name is, the mini boss that's the rock creature, like when you confront him, he just looks like a bunch of boulders laying on the ground. You have no idea that it's an actual enemy until you get close to him. So I'm thinking maybe you're cutting down a bunch of bushes, and then whenever you cut down a certain bush, maybe it's kind of like a Deku monster or some type of grass enemy that comes up, and now you have to fight it. Nathan, welcome back. We were just talking about in Breath of the Wild, Eric wants to talk about how the overworld may be looked at as having dungeon-like elements in it, kind of like in Skyward Sword, how in order to get into some of the dungeons, you had to solve puzzles and stuff in the overworld, and it kind of combined, in a way, the experience that you get in the dungeon, but out in the overworld, and maybe they'll take that to the next level in Breath of the Wild. And I was just talking about how there's already mini-bosses, like the rock mini-boss that you would have no idea was actually there until you get near a boulder and it just pops up. So maybe there's other types, like something in a pond or a lake, or something that just looks like a bush that you go to cut down, and then all of a sudden a monster pops out.
Yeah, I think because when I left, you're talking about numbers of dungeons and stuff. I think dungeons in this game are going to be very organic, and when I say that, I mean a lot of times in Zelda, dungeons are, outside of the ones that are built around like a castle or something like that, they're basically holes in a wall that are separated from the rest of the world. So you're inside a volcano, or here's a temple that's magically in the middle of a forest. It's all segregated out from the rest of the world, and sometimes it confuses me, because I'm like, okay, well, what's the purpose of this forest temple? Why does it even exist?
The forest just grows around the temple.
Like, it grows around this temple, and there's a boss at the end. What is the point of this thing even being here? And it's been something that's really bothered me with Zelda and how it handles its dungeons is they don't feel organic. They feel like they're kind of plopped into the world and didn't really serve a purpose outside of to just be a dungeon. And how the world works is things aren't just made to be dungeons. That's not how it, like, how it would be nice is if it's something that is organic feeling into the world. So say there is an inevitable dungeon that takes place in the volcano. Well, whatever areas are in the volcano that are part of that dungeon, it has this natural progression where there's a reason for that area to exist that has nothing to do with it being a dungeon. So
what comes to mind
places,
for me when you say that really quick is the Goron Mines in Twilight Princess, how
Sure, yeah,
it has an
that's
actual purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But go
Some
on
of the
with what you're
rooms,
saying.
some of the rooms in it, I question what their purposes were. Like like the magnetic ceiling. Walking, what was the purpose?
Yeah, you could just build a
Um,
bridge.
It was just
Yeah,
to
they
create.
just-
Obviously, it was to create clever puzzles, but it's just. I'm hoping that instead of being segmented out, like say there's only the 4 dungeons as the rumor suggested, that those dungeons are massive, and sometimes you'll be in it and you won't even realize you're actually in a dungeon because it's just part of the world, and it doesn't really click for you that it's a dungeon until all of a sudden you get to a point that feels like a natural progression in a dungeon would. And Skyward Sword, you know, they kind of experimented with making the land kind of like a mini dungeon before you enter the dungeon. And I think in Breath of the Wild, it's Breath of the Wild. So like, don't even realize you're actually doing anything. You just think you're exploring. And next thing you know, yeah, you brought up, mini bosses in the overworld. Well, next thing you know, you unlocked a door that you had no idea that you were even supposed to unlock. You didn't even know it existed. And you're just progressing through the stuff. You just think, oh, cool, I found like this neat little cave, or I found this neat little thing. And actually, this whole last 2 hours that you've been exploring this area, that entire area was a dungeon. You just didn't even realize it.
Yeah,
I feel like
that would be amazing if they did it, but I think
I don't know if they're going to do it, but that's I would like that.
They would have to do it in a very clever way, and I think if they end up doing that, then that would explain why there would only be 4 main dungeons.
4 of them, because it would take a lot of time and thought process.
Yeah.
And to me, that would justify only 4 dungeons in the biggest Zelda world we've ever seen. That seems like not much, but if those dungeons are massive and have all this thought put into them, like that I would rather see that than a forest growing around a building that had no purpose to exist in the first place.
Yeah.
I feel like if they achieved that, we would have achieved Miyamoto's ultimate goal for Zelda, because that was his inspiration. He was just like, as a kid, he was just wandering in the countryside. Yeah, and he found a cave and he like checked it out. Yeah.
All right.
Like it didn't feel pre-scripted.
Yeah.
Charles.
That's what a lot of dungeons feel like sometimes.
Charles Uzumaki II, sorry if I butchered that name, says, Jesse,
You probably.
how will Link get to the floating island? Loftwing? Question mark.
So that's going off of the idea that there is a floating island.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, we don't know that
yeah,
that flying thing's an island yet.
yeah.
It could be Beetle's new shop.
It could be
Giant-
a spaceship.
giant
and we're gonna go to outer
airship.
space.
Yeah, Beetle could have just got an upgrade.
Aliens are canon, so I'm just saying.
That is true.
Majora's Mask.
We got Majora's Mask. Yeah.
They need them
So
cows.
it can be a spaceship. It'd be weird. All of a sudden, we're getting attacked by Final Fantasy airships, but it can happen.
That's how Hyrule had its downfall.
And how could you get up there? You make a deal with Tingle. You get on a balloon and just fly off in the air.
You hop in a cannon like in Twilight Princess. And
Yeah.
A lot of Wind Waker and
If miss,
the
you
winds
die.
blow up.
Yeah, but realistically, I would love to see Loftwings return. I've said this a lot in a lot of my videos, but I think it would be amazing. In Skyward Sword, you have the Loftwing, and you're flying really high in the air, but you're above the clouds. So you don't really get to see exactly how high you are. So in Breath of the Wild, you have this huge overworld with different terrains, huge lakes, mountains of various sizes, volcanoes, everything you can imagine. And just being able to fly over that and angle the camera down and be able to see this huge overworld below you in HD with all of the crazy art style that Breath of the Wild has, I think would be amazing to see that. And
that was always my problem with Skyward Sword. It made no sense. That flying overworld, you're up in the air and you're
It's
above the
different.
clouds. Okay,
Yeah.
I get that. But then when I drop to the surface, there is no clouds. I'm looking up, they're gone. So where
Yeah,
did these clouds magically come from?
Yeah, the overworld is actually my least favorite part of Skyward Sword.
Lost,
Yeah, it was very it felt disjointed.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
the video frozen for some of you guys?
Yeah,
I was actually
it's
gonna
frozen.
say that too.
The
Is it
actual,
stopped? Is that it?
yeah, the gameplay video is frozen. You probably reached the end.
Well, it's still playing. I can reset it. So
Because our cameras are still working, looks like.
Yeah, the cameras are working. By the way, Nominee, I saw your cat earlier.
She's right here on the floor. I was like,
Okay.
she wants to be here too.
Oh no, the cat! I have my own cat trying to get into
Oh
the
no.
camera.
She like thinks that she's this big, so like especially when I'm streaming, for some reason she just knows. She's just like, I want to be here, and like I don't really have a large desk, so she'll lay on it and then she'll just stretch, and my mouse is like everything's just falling everywhere, and I'm just like, you little stinker.
Oh, it looks like the video's back up.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
good.
Yeah. So, yeah. As I take my
Yeah,
headphones,
it looked
talking
like
about
Nathaniel was
God.
dying.
Yeah.
I hate cats.
I noticed for a lot of the video, it looked like Hannah was like really into watching the gameplay. Like whenever Link died
this
and
is gonna
stuff, you
be.
could see her react.
This is like one of the few games that I will like tune into other people playing. Like I don't really watch live streams. I'm not really one of those people that likes watching live. I'd rather just play. And as much as I want to play this game, because of how much there is to do, I think I'm going to be so thoroughly thrilled to watch other people discover things that I missed.
Yeah, because it's like when you start out and you start doing stuff and traversing in the overworld, there may be ways of getting to a place that you wouldn't even think of. So other people, because also Ayanuma, I believe, on the Treehouse live stream at E3, whenever he was watching the people streaming the game get through some of the puzzles, he said that he was seeing people complete some of the puzzles and beat the shrines in ways that he had never even knew you could. So, like, the multiple ways of solving a puzzle and completing a shrine, I think that'll be, because you may be reliant on one particular type of rune or bomb arrows or something, and you may not think to use something else. So,
and I was just thinking, because someone's going to try it, because it's already been proven you can do it. We're talking about that floating island or spaceship or whatever that thing is. Someone's going to try to wait till it goes above a peak on a mountain, and they're going to do that homemade makeshift catapult and try to catapult Link up to it. It's going to happen, and it's going to be awesome if you can pull it off. Like, if you just find the right peak that's at the right distance, because that catapult thing flings you pretty high.
Speaking of,
That's the kind of like experimentation I love, because like the game allows you to try crazy stuff like this, and someone's gonna think of some crazy stuff I've never seen or even remotely thought about. That the fact that I watched a video, I didn't try it myself, but I watched a video after I got done on E3 on the final day, and this person was levitating. Like using the metal pieces together to create a levitation device to cross the river. And I'm like, this is crazy. I would have never thought to try to levitate across the river with the magnet. That's crazy.
Do you
That's
know,
amazing.
Do you know what he's talking about, Eric? Have you seen this footage?
no, I
Have you
haven't
seen it,
seen the
Hannah?
levitating.
This footage,
Yeah.
no. I've seen like clips what you were talking about earlier when you were talking about like people taking
Catapulting.
stuff from like random things,
Yeah.
but like not specifically that like at all.
the-
Like,
the
but
levitating,
I get what you're saying, because like I never thought that I would
Yeah, it's something I would
ever
never think of
see
doing.
that.
Yeah.
Or, and then like seeing Link like surf on his shield, like that is so
Yeah.
unheard of. But it's like,
It's Twilight Princess surfing all the time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
like,
it's so cool to see that though. Like they're actually like progressing and like actually thinking things through this time. And I was gonna say earlier when Jesse was like commenting on how I was reacting to like how the film or how the actual footage was going, because like earlier I was laughing because I hadn't seen much of it, but I hadn't seen that Link actually his face like animates like he gets all like cold and stuff whenever he's actually in the
They have a lot of fine
the
details.
icing
Yeah,
part.
it's-
Oh yeah.
It's like they took the animations from Wind Waker because he has a lot of facial
Yeah.
expressions in that
'Cause
game and just
Link
took
always
it to
has
the next
random-
level.
I mean,
Mhm.
have you seen the footage of him trying to kick open a treasure box barefoot?
Oh,
Just like, but he's like, oh,
Yeah,
Hurts the
he
sweat.
actually reacts in pain.
oh my god. They
Yeah.
I actually was noticing that too whenever they were talking or whenever he was actually in the icy area and he ate like hot peppers and then he put more clothes on. It reminds me, like, I don't know if you guys have touched on this earlier, but it immensely like reminds me of Monster Hunter because you do so much of these things in Monster Hunter and like
Lots
it's,
of
of
fine
course to a
details in
lesser
Monster-
extent. Yeah, lots of details like when you're in the cold lands and things like that and you don't have any hot drinks, your character is like and then whenever you lose a lot of stamina
lots of
and things like that.
pre-planning.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely very like a realistic point of view with Zelda that hasn't been as this immersive before, which is something that I am so happy to see.
Yeah,
Like
it
I'm
really
glad
makes
that they
them-
merged those things.
Something
Yeah, it really makes them more human.
Yeah, exactly.
something that I'm really interested in with this game is like the different types of foods that you can make. Like you were talking about eating spicy foods and stuff and how Link reacts to it. Like what else can you do with this game? What else can you make?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, in terms of cooking,
Yeah, like is there anything that you'd be able to make that actually I don't know, like what all is there to explore and do with like mixing different foods and stuff like that?
I feel like literally the possibilities are endless with cooking, especially when I saw the heat tolerance thing. I'm thinking that as long as you got the right ingredients, you can probably make something to benefit you in almost any way in this game.
Yeah.
I was thinking that as well because like maybe they're kind of implementing the way like whenever you go into Skyloft in the bazaar, you go to the potion shop and you've got the woman or husband with the baby and they're like, hey, we can make stuff for you if you pay us, so we can make you like give you this hero potion and you'll be stronger for this amount of time, and like you can get the red potion and you can just regain hearts and things like that. But like I feel like they're kind of not necessarily pushing that out completely, but there's not shops you can go to in the wild. So this is all Link. Like you have to like forage and like make things out of nothing because you are by yourself trying to survive, and you're actually being, you know, like right now, like he's finding like food right now, like prime steak, so he can use to replenish his health because you can't be like, oh well, I'm just gonna walk to the market today and just buy something. Like you're in the wild, so it's very like it's very, very intuitive to where things are actually supposed to be and places that aren't supposed to be there and things like that.
You know
And
what
I'm
I just
really
realized?
excited.
I'm watching this footage. It's something I never thought about. A long time ago, when we were still calling this thing Zelda U, and we had no idea what was going on. Feels like forever ago now, even though it really wasn't. This was probably like 2 years ago, right after the Game Award footage came out. I made a Boss Man video that said that I thought that Link was going to be a hunter and gatherer. I was 100% correct. Like I just realized, like it's a realization that I need to go back and watch that video because I can't remember why I thought that was going to be the case, because we had no idea the game was going to be anything like this, and then all of a sudden that's exactly what we're doing in this game.
That's something that I want to ask all of you. When we just had the one trailer, or the two, I guess the second one was like a brief clip of Link riding up, and then suddenly he has the Sheikah tablet slate thing with him. So when all we seen was that footage and the little cinematic that they claim is actual gameplay, where Link hops off Epona and shoots the arrow.
Good. Yes.
When that's all we knew, and the little information that we actually had, whenever you developed the ideal of what you wanted or what you thought Zelda Wii U was going to be when you actually seen Breath of the Wild, when you actually seen how you traverse the world, what the Great Plateau looks like, the starting area, the shrines and everything. How did that differ from what your preconceived thoughts were? And did you have higher expectations, or did it meet the expectations you had? Were you let down? Was it better than you thought it would be? What were your guys' thoughts?
Okay, I guess I'll start. Yeah.
I was really like, tell us the future again.
That was the future.
I got lucky.
I honestly, when I saw the gameplay footage after seeing that trailer, it was actually beyond my expectations. I wasn't really, I guess I wasn't really expecting too much. But then again, I didn't know what to really expect. So, I mean, I fell into the problem before where I got really hyped for a game and I end up, sorry, I'm dealing with my cat, and I ended up getting really disappointment. And I'm thinking of Twilight Princess. Actually, I was actually so hyped up for Twilight Princess that I ended up being disappointed when I first played it. But now I have an appreciation for Twilight Princess, FYI. But
I was going to say you could just leave.
No. I played it again, and it's really good, and I recognize it for a lot of things that it did for the series.
No, I think the worst of the Zelda games are still better than half normal games, if that makes sense. Like a bad Zelda game is still a good
game. Yeah. But yeah, the Breath of the Wild footage that I saw at this past E3, I was so impressed with what I saw. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't. They were talking about doing an open world Zelda for a really long time. It was rumored for a really long time that they were going to do open world Zelda, and there was the talk of Aonuma being inspired by Skyrim, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll, whatever, I'll see it when I see it. And so now that I actually see what they're working on, I'm like blown away at what they've been able to pull off for a Zelda game, and I'm really thrilled to play it, but at the same time I want to remain cautious and don't get myself too hyped up for the game.
I thought the same thing, because if you kind of look back, let's say back to 2011 and things like that, where Skyrim came into play. It's 2016, and they are still making profit from Skyrim because people want
now they have
an open world game. And they're remaking Skyrim now, and they're of course it's very, very immersive and things like that. And then they did GTA 5, where GTA 5 was so everybody wanted to play GTA 5. The map was supposed to be huge, and it was huge, and it was awesome, and there was just endless possibilities. So it's kind of been a trending factor in games now, where people want an open world game. So they're not so much as a linear path that they have to go through every single time that they play a Zelda game, because when you play any kind of Zelda game, it's go to this dungeon, get this item is special only for this dungeon, and then you go to the next thing. Whereas in Breath of the Wild and things like that, you can do whatever you want. And they let the player have that freedom where you can just be hey, I kind of want to do this and things like that and this and that, because people play on, touch elbows with the thing haha, Link doesn't ever save Zelda because he's always doing other things, whenever you're fishing or doing something like that, or you're in the towns and you're playing the Battleship game and Wind Waker, the Sploosh and things like that, because it's stuff like that is fun, and you don't always want to be so linear. Yeah So it's this kind of pleases that factor in you, where you're I don't really want to do work right now, I kind of just want to play. So you can do whatever you want in Wind Waker, or I'm sorry, in Breath of the Wild. So I was I really was thrilled. This was way more than I expected when Zelda U was the thing, when it came out, Zelda U, and I was it'll be an open world game, I'm see how that goes. And now it's just it has blown me out of the water. Like, I'm
Yeah,
just thrilled.
And I think it makes a difference that all of us here have a history with Zelda games. So we've come to sort of
Well, Nathan just started
recognize.
playing 6 months ago.
What? Did you really? Okay, so
Yeah.
great. I'm glad you can provide a fresh perspective because I've been playing Zelda since Ocarina of Time. So I've been playing it since 1999. Actually, I didn't get it in '98. And so I've come to recognize these patterns in Zelda games. And, things get predictable. Like you said, the item, you use this to defeat the dungeon. This is what you do for the boss. So the fact that they're going in such a totally different direction with this new game has me like so excited as I guess you could say, a Zelda veteran, because it seems fresh to me.
Yeah. Well, Eric, that was a bit of a joke.
What? It was a joke? Oh, darn it.
Yeah, like I don't. If you think that if you think the person that runs one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Zelda website just started playing 6 months ago.
Hey, I'm not gonna judge.
Considering that I've been running Zelda Informer for like 7.5 years, but this is a very interesting thing because what we have so far in the game is exactly what I imagined this game to be in my head. It's not what I expected it to be. A lot of people, when they were getting hyped over the Zelda U footage and the sparse details we had, I was like, yeah, but Nintendo's never made a game like this before. They did the original Zelda, but that's a massively simplified version of what we have here. So Nintendo's internal studios, especially under Nintendo EAD Group 3, IGN Nomo's group that does all the Zelda games, they have never done anything like this. And I have not seen anything from that group since he took over for Miyamoto that has given me any indication that they had the capability to do something like this. Because after all, Skyward Sword was supposed to be open world, and look how that turned out. So it's kind of one of those where I had no faith that they could do anything like this. I had no faith that they could get rid of hand-holding. I had no faith that they could make a game challenging, because AJ Nomo himself has openly admitted how much he struggles with the Zelda games that were more challenging, and that he doesn't find that to be fun because he can't beat them, and he thinks that people want to be able to beat the game. I think he's infamously said he can't even beat Zelda 1. And so here we have a game largely inspired by Zelda 1, a game that he couldn't beat. So it's kind of one of those, I had this huge lack of faith. You look at who's directing it, it's someone who's never directed a game like this before. So my expectations were people were going to get really, really hyped over these little tidbits of footage, but something has to be wrong because we're not seeing the game. It's been 2+ years, and whatever they're doing just isn't working. And what we're going to get is going to be a shell of whatever the hopes and dreams of an open world Zelda game is. It's going to be tiny. It's not going to have a lot of interactable stuff in the world because it's the Wii U, and they're going to use the excuse that they don't have the power to do what we want to do. Even though clearly hardware that's less powerful has done stuff like this before. So I just thought it was going to end up becoming another Skyward Sword where they wanted it to be open world, realized they couldn't do it, and fell back into, well, it's kind of open world because, see, we have Hyrule Field now connecting everything, so it's open world, but it's still a linear set path. We've never seen them tell a story like this. I'm of mind that the storytelling they're about to do in this, no game has ever done, where you could go to all these different areas. Even like the Witcher series is open world, like it's very open world, especially The Witcher 3, but the story is linear. You just go, all the story progression is on a straight path. Even in Mass Effect 3, like where your decisions make a difference, the actual story still happens at the exact same point for all the players at the exact same time. And in Breath of the Wild, they're kind of like, no, man, you go over here, you might get a little bit of story at this spot. You might go over here and get a totally different part of the story at this spot. And somehow all of that progression is going to fit together and not confuse people. And I don't know a game that's done that. And
think-
this game, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
This game, as soon as like I saw the trailer and I was like, okay, cool. The trailer's showing off some cool stuff. Let me actually play this game. Let me see, because I was really excited by the first trailer. Not as excited by the Game Awards footage. Touched the game and I'm like, they did it. This is literally what I've been dreaming about for 3 years.
Right? Yeah, I think part of
I can
my
watch this
excitement
footage all
was-
day.
Yeah, they actually pulled off what they said they were going to do, and I was like, whoa, this is it. They
Well, here's the
actually
thing.
created
All they
it.
ever said, all they really said is, we're making an open world Zelda game.
Yeah.
That was it. They
Yeah.
didn't really give us any expectations for what that means.
Yeah.
Outside of mentioning, oh, in Skyward Sword we try to do it, and oh, we're gonna break conventions, and you're like, oh, okay. And then one of the conventions they mentioned, and oh, we're gonna break conventions, like the idea that Zelda has to be played solo, and I'm like, okay, so Four Swords Adventures, we did that. Oh, Triforce Heroes. Oh, okay. Like, I'm like, what do you mean break conventions? Because he still wakes up. The very first thing, oh, Link wakes up. Okay.
But Aonuma did
Special
mention that he
practice.
wanted to keep that for like tradition.
Yeah, I know. For nostalgia
Yeah.
reasons there.
I want to thank you all for watching this video. If you liked it, give this video a like and share it with your friends. If you haven't already, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future gaming news, theories, rumors, and discussions. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on how it could be improved. Your feedback is the most important part of bringing the quality of content on this channel to be the best that it can be. I would like to take this time to give a huge thank you to this month's Patreon supporters: Jonathan, The Edge Network, Magic Tech Review, John Frank, and Harris Priest. This video was made possible by supporters on Patreon. If you would also like to support this channel, head over to patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can support this channel as well. Rewards vary from having your topic featured on a future discussion, seeing videos early, joining as a guest on a video, shoutouts, and having a custom avatar similar to my own drawn of you to match any video game or anime art style that you would like. Mine is of myself as Link, but you could choose to have yours any way that you would like. Finally, I would like to thank my friends CS Guitar 89 and Gnomo Designs for providing the music and artwork for this video.